All right, guys, I'm just going to get right into this because I'm not sure how long I get to talk on this video, but everyone should have already figured out or filled out the vertex form, axis of symmetry, and vertex. Really quickly, I'm just going to write them in. I'm not going to spend too much time on these, but we already filled these out together in class. So this is vertex form. I'm going to skip the f of x part because I am in a hurry. X minus h squared plus k. That's a minus sign, by the way. This is not going to be the best handwriting. I apologize. And then standard form is x squared plus bx plus c. To find the axis of symmetry on this one, you're going to do the opposite of b over 2a. That's also your first point in your vertex, whatever the opposite of b over 2a is. And then to find the second point, you have to plug whatever you get. So say you get 5 for that, you got to plug that back into the original equation to get this number right here. What does a do in each of the functions? It tells you whether it opens up or down. I'm sorry, my handwriting is terrible, but this pen isn't very good either. So opens up or down. It also tells you how wide or narrow the graph is, depending on how big the number is. If the number is a large number, it's going to be narrow. If it's a small number, like a decimal, it's going to be wide. That's what that first number tells us. Okay, so that's the first page. We're going to move on just to the problems really quickly. We already did this first one. Sorry, this is so tiny, but it says the graph of f of x equals a of x opens down and is wider than the graph of f of x equals x squared, which is the parent function. Which of the following could be the value of a? It cannot be c and it cannot be d because both of those open up because they're positive. We want one that is wider, so it's going to have to be a number that is a decimal, and that would have to be b. Sorry, that's bad. Okay, I'm going to talk through number 4. I don't know how much I'm going to write. I am going to write whether it's true or false, but you're just going to have to listen to my reasoning on number 4. Which statement about the graph of g of x equals negative 5x squared and f of x equals x squared are true? G is wider than f. That is false because g is a bigger number. G is 5 and x has a 1 as a. So that is false. It would actually be narrower. I'm not going to write that because I can't write that small, but it's false. F and G open the same direction. That's also false. If you look at G, it has a negative sign out front, which means that it opens down. And if you look at F, it has a positive number up front, like a 1, and that would open up. So that's false. They have the same vertex. True. If they were written in vertex form, they would both have a 0, 0 as the vertex, which also means that this last one is true. They both would have an axis of symmetry of x equals 0, because remember, whatever this first number is in your vertex is that number you put for your axis of symmetry. Wondering if I copied the second picture again or not. Okay, we're just going to talk about it on this page. So if you look at my x values, these numbers are all less than 1. So when less than 0. When x is less than 0, what is happening to your y's? It's going from 12 to 3 to 0. That means they are decreasing. I'm so sorry about my handwriting, but at this point, it is what it is. They are decreasing. Okay, if you look down here, when it's starting to get bigger numbers, there's also a 412 on the other page. The copies were wrong. But if you look here, your x's are increasing. They're all bigger than 0. And your y's are getting bigger as well. So I'm going to say increasing. I'm just going to write in because you can see my handwriting is terrible. There's the other part of that problem. Okay, looking at number 6. What is the vertex of the graph? Remember, your vertex is HK. Right here, we have the opposite of H, which would be negative 4. If I want H, I've got to do the opposite of negative 4, which is 4. Then K is at the very end, so whatever this last number is, you're actually going to write as your vertex. Describe how this function transformed from the parent function. So the 2 means that it got more narrow. Sorry, put my handwriting. The -4 means it's going right 4. And then the last number, -1, means it's going down 1. So that's all the things that are happening here. You could say that it opens up, but so does the parent function, so that's not really necessary. On number 7, what is the axis of symmetry? Remember, the first thing you want to figure out is your vertex. That would be 2, because you want to do the opposite of what's in the parentheses. So if it's -2, you'll write +2. 1. Then the first point, that's what x is. So that's your axis of symmetry. X equals 2, because your x vertex point is 2. Describe how the function transformed. First of all, this negative sign right here means that it opens down. The 3 means it's narrow. We call that a stretch. The -2 means right 2. I'm just putting R2 for that. And the +1 at the end means up 1. Okay, identify the vertex on number 8. So remember, you want to do the opposite of what's in the parentheses. So if it says -1, you'll write 1. And then it would be -4 as your other point. Convert it to standard form. Okay, so this is going to be tricky. I don't know if I have enough room here. Okay, here on part. So what you're going to do is you're going to write down your equation, which is x minus 1 squared, which is actually x minus 1 times x minus 1. And I'm going to go ahead and multiply those things. I'm foiling. Don't forget that at the end of that, there's a -4. We can't forget that. So x times x is x squared. X times -1 is -1x. -1 times x is -1x. And -1 times -1 is +1. But don't forget, at the end of that equation, we had a -4, so I'm going to tack that on too. Now I just need to combine like terms. I'm going to write it down here. It'll be x squared -1 minus -1, or -1 and -1 together is -2x. And then that would be -3. So that's standard form. The y-intercept always starts with a 0 and is whatever the point C is, and that's this number right here. It's a -3. So your answer to this equation is right here, 0, 3. Once you make it in standard form, the whole point of that is now you can see that this number is C, and that's your y-intercept. Number 9, what is the axis of symmetry in the graph? So the axis of symmetry, you've got to do the opposite of B, which would be 6. That's not a 6, sorry. Over 2a, which would be 2 times -1, which would be -2. So that actually equals -3. So the axis of symmetry equals -3. X equals -3. What is the vertex? So you're going to use that point for the first part. And then you need to plug -3 into this entire equation. So everywhere there's an x, I'm going to make it a -3. You could type that directly into your calculator. I can do that in order of operations. Says parentheses first, but there's nothing to do in the parentheses. So then I would look at exponents. -3 squared is 9, but then there's also a negative sign out front. So it's -9 plus 18 plus 8, and that equals 17. So your vertex is 317. What is your y-intercept? Y-intercept always starts with a 0 and is whatever your C is. So if C is 8, it would be 0, 8. Okay, let's see if I put this problem. No, I did not. I don't even know if I have. I even skipped number 11. Hold on. So number 10, it's talking about that models the height and feet of a jaguar t seconds after it jumps to the nearest foot. What's the maximum height? So the first thing you want to do is the opposite of b, which would be -18, over 2a, which would be -32. When you do this, you get a decimal. It's like 0.5625. You've got to plug that number in everywhere there is a t. So negative 16 times 0.5625 squared plus 18 times 0.5625. When you plug all that in, it gives you a number. It's like 5 point something, but it says at the end, round to the nearest foot. So it would be 5 feet tall. I did not write number 11 on here, so I'm going to do number 11 really quick. This is number 11. Joshua wants to surround a 16 by 20 inch painting. So I'm going to draw the painting really quick. Here's the painting. It's beautiful, and it's 16 by 20. Then they put a 1 inch frame around the entire thing. So I'm going to draw my frame. Sorry, it's obviously not to scale, but everywhere, every piece of this is X. So from there to there is X. From there to there is X. From here to here, obviously it doesn't look the same, but it is still X. And from here to here is X. So what I need to do is I need to figure out the entire length this way, which would be X, 16, and X. X plus X is 2X, and then you'd still have the 16. Then I need to do the same thing for this side. You have X here, 20 here, X here. So it's 2X plus 20. So then I'm going to multiply those two things together. FOIL first, outside, inside, last. 2X times 2X is 4X squared. Multiplied these two first. 2X times 20 is 40X. 16 times 2 is 32X. And 16 times 20 is 320. The only other thing you have to do is combine your like terms. These two can be combined. So your answer is 4X squared. Doesn't look like an X. 4X squared plus 72X plus 320. That's your answer for number 11. I'm going to move on. I'm sorry I'm going very quickly, but I don't know how much time they let me record on this app. Number 12, which one best models the data? The first thing I'm going to point out to you is right here, it tells you what the y-intercept is. So when x is 0, what is y? So it says it's 1.5. This one says it's 4.2. That's not even close, and so does this one. So A and C are out because C is 4.3 something. So now I just have to plug in a number. So basically pick one of your x values right here and plug it in for t and figure out which one of these equations is closer. It's not going to be exact, but it's going to be pretty close. So when you do that, you end up getting D is correct. All you have to do is replace t with one of the numbers and see which one is closer. I'm not going to do that on the video. Number 13, over which interval f of x equals 2x does it increase faster than x over 3, 8 over 3x, sorry. This one is a exponential function. This one is a linear function. So the bigger number you plug in for x, the more it's going to increase. So we don't want to use a number between 1 and 2. That would be a small number. We don't want to use a number between 1 and 3, and we don't want to use a number between 2 and 3 because the biggest option that we have is when x is greater than 3. The other way you could do this is you could write a table and you could figure out, okay, if I had a number of 4 and I plugged it into this equation, 2 to the x power would be 2 to the 4th power, that's 16. If I plugged it into the other equation, times 4, that would give me 10 and a half, or 10 and 2/3. So you can see at this point, this one has a larger value than this one does when you plug it in. So the bigger the number, the more it's going to increase. That's why I'm choosing this number right here. Okay, this is the last question. So does the data suggest whether it's linear, quadratic, or exponential? Describe if you determine or how you determine it. First thing you're going to want to do is do the first difference. The first difference, if they are the same, means it's linear. If that didn't work and you didn't get the same number, you would do the second difference, which would mean it's quadratic if they were all the same for the second difference. After that, you would do a ratio, And if that was the same, that would be exponential. So that's kind of a broad little thing, but I want to do this really quickly because I have not very much time left. Negatives, I'm going to take -6 minus -36. That equals 30. 16, that's not a good 16, minus -6, that would be 22. I can tell right here that it's not linear, but I'm going to keep going because I'm going to have to keep doing these for quadratic as well. So 30 minus 16, that's 14. And 36 minus 30, I don't know why it did that, is 6. So I can tell right here, one of them is 30, 22, 14, 6. It's definitely not linear. So I'm going to keep going and do the second difference. This one would be 8. This one would be 8. And this one would be 8. That means that this is the second difference. They're all the same. So this would have to be quadratic. All right, guys, sorry that this is so sloppy, but at least there's a video up. So the test will be on Thursday.